Countdown. And hello, everybody. Welcome to a pre recorded episode of Hour of the Wolf. My name is Jim Freund, and with us uh, is Susan Emshwiller. I have had much of her family on this show through the years. I met I'm not sure. I'm gonna put you on early, Susan, just to ask you. Uh, there you are. If by any chance in the early '70s, do you remember going to the old church that was WBAI,
Yes,
where your father was showing films?
yes.
Okay,
BAI was like the radio station that my family listened to all the time.
yeah. So you and I have met before.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
and before your mother's memorial, which
right,
was
right.
how long ago was that?
The memorial,
Yeah,
2019.
2019. So, oh my God,
Yeah,
that long ago already.
it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
So at any rate, you and I met a long time ago,
we did.
early '70s. That's when that would have occurred, and I was thrilled. Aside from the fact that I was the house manager, I was thrilled because I knew of your father's work as an artist for particularly for the magazine of fantasy and science fiction,
Right.
and of which I have a complete collection.
Yeah.
And I had seen some of his films beforehand, but I spent that entire event talking to your mother, who's one of the great science fiction writers. Maybe not one of the most famous, but one of the best.
Yes.
And you're getting there, but you've already made your mark. So why don't I read your bio so we can intimidate everybody?
Oh no.
Yeah, it's not okay now. For those who are dealing with the radio, it's we're having imagery problems. You know what? Uh, I'll make me small and you large, but I'm not quite sure, especially since I've done this several times this week. Uh, let me also get rid of that for the moment. That didn't help. And let me tell you about Susan Emshwiller. Susan Emshwiller's worn several hats. Okay, I didn't leave enough light for myself. She is a filmmaker, playwright, screenwriter, director, set decorator, actress, painter, teacher, undoubtedly because she was raised by writer Carol Emshwiller and sci-fi illustrator and avant-garde filmmaker Ed Emshwiller. Um, I remember he used to work with Ed Catmull,
Hmm.
unless I'm mistaken, who
Not sure.
who went on to be a co-founder of a company called Pixar.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so because these are the pioneers of computer graphics
Exactly.
at the time. Her latest novel, Thar She Blows, is now available. As a set decorator, her day job in LA for many years, she worked with David Mamet, Michael Apted, and happily with Robert Altman on The Player, still one of my favorite, albeit sick movies, in which she is a featured actress. Shortcuts, Kansas City, which is one of the only Altman films I've never seen, and I
Hmm.
understand I have to correct that, and Cookie's Fortune. Susan has written screenplays on spec and during a writer's strike. That's not a good thing to say, right? Um, and for hire, most notably. How did I manage to turn off all the lights in this room? Most notably, co writer the Academy Award winning film Pollock for actor director Ed Harris. Two screenplays are currently in development. She has written and directed several plays, including the critically acclaimed and award-winning Brushstrokes, inspired by the paintings of Edward Hopper. Her play, Dominoes, is published by the Dramatists Play Service, and Defrosting Popsicles by Playwrights Incorporated. Susan's feature film, In the Land of Milk and Money, that is a gas. That's on YouTube. People should really check that out. I guess I'm dating myself by saying that's a gas. Garnered awards and rave reviews at festivals in the US and internationally. She has also written and directed short films, commercials, and music videos. Emshwiller's short story publications include the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, Furious Gazelle, Independent Ink Magazine, Black Heart Magazine, Gone Lawn, and Smoky Blue Literary and Arts Magazine. She lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico with her husband, Chris Colson, 2 dogs, and 4 chickens. She likes inventing stories and backyard contraptions. Okay, so now that I've gotten past that, we have to show the cover of the book and show it in big put myself back in there so people can hear me, but go to anywhere where I've posted this and look up the cover for Thar She Blows. Preferably go to an online bookseller and take a look at it, because I think it looks like a Hopper drawing. Am I totally wrong?
I don't know. There may be just that I have affinity for his style of working, and because I did those plays, it may be that I just automatically am gravitating toward that.
It's one of his. It's probably his second most famous painting, next to Nighthawks, which is of a woman trying to reach a house and not quite getting there.
Wow.
Really striving to get there. And the distance of the character, who in this case is in a whale, no spoilers, you'll figure that out shortly, who's in the whale, is in the Hopper painting crawling toward the house, but very clearly never really getting anywhere, which I think is a fair statement to say about a lot of Hopper's characters.
Yes.
Never really getting there.
Right. That's true. Yeah. When I first saw the works, and I had seen Nighthawks, when I first saw those paintings, I was like, holy mackerel, these are stories. Every single one of them is a story. And I just had to sit down and write what I thought the stories were. So the play came out with 6 of his paintings.
I would love to see that, because I knew of Hopper's work not long ago, but I only became really familiar with it during the pandemic, when I discovered just how many documentaries were on YouTube about his work, and including incredible sniping between him and his wife.
Yes.
Who was she was also an artist and also a brilliant person, and she could scold.
And he used her as a model in most of the paintings, changing her slightly. But that's one of the things I dealt with in my play. That she's finally pissed off.
Yeah. And although it seems in real life she may have started more pissed off than ending up there. She was quite a character herself, and a fine artist herself, if it wasn't for the fact that his fame eclipsed her.
Yeah. So often happens, like,
Yeah,
Lee Krasner and Pollock.
I'm not familiar with her work.
Yeah, she's pretty, she's getting more well known because people are acknowledging the fact that she was a great artist, except totally eclipsed.
Yes. Your sister, I guess after I read the bio, had a little comment. What a list of accomplishments. My sister is awesome, says
Thank you, Eve.
Emshwiller. And she also said that she's glad that we're doing this on YouTube as she's having trouble accessing it on Facebook. Facebook and this software that we use, I do not use Zoom. I don't want to get Zoom bombed or anything like that. This is a much better place to do presentations rather
Mm,
than simple. I would say Zoom is more for it's conferencing,
yeah.
and this we can have up to 5 people. Although today I can't even seem to manage two. Uh, Now I guess near the top we're going to hear a selection from Thar She Blows.
Yes.
Uh, uh, as read by the author, and is there anything that I should ask before we begin?
No, thank you.
Okay, so we can go in cold. And
Yes, I'll just say that, I'm gonna read 2 chapters, and, there are 2 chapters between the ones I'm gonna read, but I'm gonna skip those, so it'll, if you're reading along in the book, which I don't know why you would, but if you're reading along, I'm gonna skip ahead.
okay, fair enough.
Okay,
And,
so,
and I'm going to say bye bye, and I'll be back when you're done.
okay, so I'm gonna read on the screen. Brian's late. 6 o'clock. Fine. You had your chance, Brian. Now I'm mad. But hell, never mind about old mom. Take a few more hours, catch a movie, hang with your low-life friends, play for computer games, do whatever. I won't call. I'm not going to check up on you. You need to call me. I stare at the phone. The phone stares back. Now what? I'll do a load of laundry, collect some beige towels from the upstairs bedroom, hash Brian's room. Maybe he has something that needs washing. The doorknob is slimy and his room is dark. I flick the switch, but no lights go on. Great, my son, the handyman, can't even change a bulb. Try the mini blinds. The rod to turn them is gone. The string to pull, cut. You don't want any light in here? What don't you want to see, Brian? Tap the computer keyboard. The screen lights up on a figure of a grotesque, muscle bound cartoon man. Must be my son's avatar or whatever they call that. I turn away, trying not to judge. I guess Brian would rather be a superhero than what he is, a schlubby, overweight 19-year-old boy with pasty skin from living in this darkness. Lit by the computer screen, the room is a mess. Clothes everywhere. There's an energy here that creeps me out. Maybe it's knowing he's always online with some game killing people. Maybe it's that he graduated but is still at home. Maybe it's that he's never had a girlfriend and at the rate he's trying, never will. Look, his underwear is stretched. I'll have to order him a larger size again. This isn't a growth spurt like when he was 13. He's fat. He's nearly 6 feet tall, but all blubber. Rolls around the middle, Pringles and Cokes. I've got to stop having that stuff delivered. He'll get diabetes and it'll be my fault. I gather clothes. Why am I doing this? He should do his own laundry. I don't even like touching his things. They're all sticky from God knows what. But I'm doing a load, so might as well. He's not going to. I can ask and plead until I'm blue in the face. Nothing works. He wants to move into the garage. Maybe I should let him. Except then I'll be all alone in this beige carcass of a dream house. Every house in this development is a dream house. And every dream house is beige. Dan wanted everything inside to match the beige stucco outside. Step into a sea of beige walls, pull the beige vertical blinds, turn on beige lamps. Dan even chose beige handles for the kitchen cabinets. I hate this place, and I'm the one living here. I pick up the clothes from the floor. Brian's carpet needs cleaning. It's not beige anymore. Close the door to my son's dungeon and head downstairs to the beige washing machine. Dump in the soap, set the dial to extra dirty, stinky teenager wash. Slam the lid, push start, turn, and there I am. Why Dan wanted mirrors all over, I don't know. Well, I guess I do. He loved his physique, as he called it, paid more attention to his body than he did his wife and son. I'm getting as pasty faced as Brian. This indoor skin needs some sort of spa treatment, but I can't face going to those places. Not that I can face going out anywhere. I'd step in and people would stare and snicker. Not tall enough, not buff enough, not anorexic enough. My beige hair blow dried with an undercurl is undoubtedly out of fashion with today's mom requirements. Probably need violet contacts to liven up these dull gray eyes. Years ago, I tried to be a Southern California woman. I ate salads, converted to soy milk and gluten free for a while, dabbled with yoga, and grunted through one session of Pilates. Nothing stuck. Maybe that's why I don't go out anymore. Everyone's more put together than I am. Everyone looks like they're on television. My face could be a police drawing. Generic. Reporters asking the neighbors about me would get, her? Can't say. I haven't seen her in forever. She stopped going out. What I remember is she was kind of unmemorable, kind of beige. 6:20, still no call. I dial. The phone rings and his voice, "This is Brian. Leave a message." "Damn it, Brian. You promised you'd call if you were going to be late. You'll miss dinner. Let's just see how you manage on your own. I'm not going to lift a finger to put something on the table." I hang up. No, I will put something on the table. Something with vegetables, some broccoli, cauliflower, spinach monstrosity he'll hate. And the later he is, the more pungent the overcooked slop will be. What can I make? Not much left in the fridge. About time to go shopping. Go shopping? You don't leave the house. It's more convenient to order delivery. You're terrified of the world. Haven't made it past the front door in 2 years. Not. You even looked up agoraphobic. The doorbell rings. Now what? It's too late for FedEx or UPS or with any of my orders. Maybe it's a disadvantaged youth selling magazines. The badge tells me otherwise. "Mrs. Ketchum, I'm afraid there's been an accident. Your son Brian, knees turned to liquid." The bronze-skinned officer catches my elbow and steers me inside. He fits right in with his beige uniform. "Mrs. Ketchum, we don't know anything for sure yet." His mouth continues to move, making sounds. His eyes are trying to be concerned, but he's cut off from emotion. Is he tired of bringing bad news to parents? Do his eyes warm up when he gets home, or are they always dead? No, not dead. Not dead. Brian's not dead. I interrupt the moving mouth. Is he dead? Is my boy dead? "Ma'am, we're still gathering information. We don't have a lot to go on. It seems your son fell overboard and the Coast Guard is conducting a thorough aquatic search for him. We're interviewing the participants aboard the vessel that witnessed the event." Where do they teach these people to talk? The room is darkening. Am I fainting? No, someone's in the doorway, a Ken doll with a badge. Ken looks uncomfortable, like he and his partner are wanted elsewhere. I wave at Ken to go. It comes out more as a "get the hell away" gesture. Ken disappears in the evening glare. Brian fell overboard, but he can swim. He'll be okay. He fell overboard. No one pulled him out. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. There isn't more I can tell you." The officer's lips flatten to a thin scar across the bronze skin. I try to understand what that means. "Is your husband home?" I can't believe he's asking that, like everyone has a big, happy family. "Is your wife home?" I ask. "Ma'am, don't like the question? Maybe you're divorced. Some of us are." Bronze man glances to the door, hoping for Ken doll backup. No such luck. He returns to me, mentally flipping through his emotional playbook to get to and settling on compassion. "Ma'am, do you have someone I can call, a friend or neighbor? Who's in charge? Ma'am, who the hell do I call to find out what happened?" The officer drops fake concern from his eyes. He pulls a pad from his perfectly pressed breast pocket, writes a number down, and hands it to me. "This is the officer that will be your liaison on the case. He'll have the most current information on your son." My son. I think I may throw up. The officer talks into his shoulder. "Carswell, find me a neighbor." My eyes fogged. The carpet needs cleaning. That Ken doll must have darkened the doorway again, or my eyes open. I'm on the couch looking up the cottage cheese ceiling. What happened? "Anne, are you okay?" a voice whispers. I turn to look at the perfectly coiffed woman. From what I remember the last time I went out, she's the one that lives at the end of the block with the yapping dogs. She's groomed like she's headed for a celebrity brunch. Gold earrings, long fake eyelashes. I can't remember her name. P something. Pamela? Prudence? "It's me, Anne. Pat. Pat. Patty cake. Pat on the back. Pat of butter." The lights are on in the living room. Dark outside. What happened? Oh. "Pat, did they say more about Brian?" Pat pats my hand. "He's hot, or I'm very cold." She purses her lips to express an unease with the subject. "And I'm sure it will work out. Don't worry, he'll be found." Something's in my hand. I unclench, exposing the crumpled piece of paper, the number of the liaison officer, whoever. I sit up slowly, hoping the blood will stay in my head. "I need to call this number what was her name? Something about butter?" "Pat," she reminds me, and pushes my phone across the coffee table with a long pink nail. I dial the number. When the officer answers, I interrupt him. "This is Ann Ketchum. Your officer said my son Brian fell overboard in a boating accident. I need you to tell me what happened and how he is." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Ketchum. We're assessing the situation and we'll keep you informed when we know more." "Where is Brian? Is he alive? You need to tell me." "Mrs. Ketchum will be in touch with you the moment we hear any." I hang up on him. This is completely unacceptable. They'd tell me if he was alive. They'd want to share that. That must mean Brian's dead. I need to do something. "Pat, can you go?" Pat sputters a bit. They said I should stay until I'm okay. I'm okay now." Relief spreads across her tight, tan forehead. She searches her purse and hands me a business card. She's a realtor. It has a picture of her smiling with perfect teeth and perfect hair. She gives me the identical smile. "If you're sure, Buttons and Bows will be needing their dinner. I can come back later if you." "I'm fine. You go feed Buttons and the other one. Thanks for coming." Pat steps backwards to the front door, nodding and fluttering her hands in apologies and explanations. When the door clicks, I I get up, lock it, and start vacuuming. The vacuuming will take a while. The house is large, too large for two people, especially if one spends all his time in his room. I vacuum the family room, stupid name. The living room, no one does that here. The dining room, we eat everywhere else. The master bedroom without the master, and the guest room. Every few minutes, I'm positive I hear the phone ring and turn off the roaring machine to listen to the silence of no one calling. When I get the haul done, I pull the vacuum to Brian's room, but I can't turn it on. Tears come up hot and fast. If Brian's dead, why did I wash his clothes? On deck. How did it happen? Probably my fault. It started okay, 3 girls, 3 guys, a boat, beers. the California sun gleaming off the waves somewhere off Catalina Island. I was having an okay time considering. The names of the girls, one with something that starts with a T, something that has to do with jewels or money. Tiffany, Tiara, Topaz. She was the hottie, but my best bud, Billy, had dibs on her. The other two were a 5 or 6 at most, passable in our lingo, but neither Toke or me were doing much in the way of moves. Toke might do okay with the ladies if he wasn't so blotto, but he always is. I'm not way into the trying to impress thing. Do most of my action with my eyes when the girls aren't looking. I'm not even sure I'm a 4. Too much blubber. That's why I was the only one on deck with a t-shirt. A horn blast made me jump and jiggle fat, which the girls seemed to get a kick out of. The Coast Guard ship slowed near us. Toke slipped me his Ziploc of weed like I was supposed to get caught with it instead of him. Hell, Toke, I ain't legal age either. Stash it, dude. I can't see any more of the chick. The chick? I asked, shoving the baggie into the back pocket of my shorts. Misdemeanor. Toke punched my shoulder. The punch hurt. It was supposed to show I was a righteous guy, but I knew I was only a schmuck to him and the others. Comic relief. The Coast Guard man lifted a megaphone. You kids don't go chasing anything. One boat already got rammed. Stay smart and stay safe. We waved like we got the message. The Coast Guard ship moved on. I took my phone from my pocket and pretended to send an email. Glancing up, I saw one of the girls looking at me. A Woody sprang. Damn. I turned from her and set my phone on the bench cushion so I could put my hands in my pocket and hide the bulge. An awesome wave rolled under us, and the girls went, ooh, and I had to pull a hand out to hold on, and the phone fell and slid as we tilted, sliding toward the open back of the boat. I dove and scrambled after it, probably looking like a white flabby crab, sneakers squeaking on the slippery deck, reached for the phone. As it hit the edge of my hand, grabbed it right before it fell into the waves. Boing, oing, 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 Billy sang. Nice one, Toke said, bobbing his head for emphasis. I pulled Mom's dorky waterproof case from my short, shoved the saved phone into it, and slipped the cord over my head. Looking super cool, Billy yelled across the boat. I gave him the finger. Billy grinned. Toss me a brewski, lord ass. The girls all giggled, repeating lard ass to each other. Thanks, Billy. Thanks for that. Don't mind if I do, bro, Toke said, holding out his hand for a beer. I froze my fingers in the igloo, pretending everything was fine, and tossed Coronas to Toke and Billy. Hello, lilted one of the girls, her head tilted just so, with the unmistakable, aren't you forgetting something? The 3 girls did synchronized long lash blinks at me. I don't know why I did it, but I got them all beers. Thanks, Lardas, said the pretty one. Everybody laughed, including me, and I got a beer and walked to the bow or stern or whatever, starboard, the pointy front of the boat, and glared at the flat line where the blue sky meets blue sea, and I pretended I was all right. The water and sky were pretty boring, so I checked for messages on my phone, and except for Mon reminding me to wear sunscreen, there was nada. It was clumsy to use the phone through the clear plastic. I wanted to take it from the stupid waterproof case with the dumb neck strap. Only everyone would have figured I was taking it off so I wouldn't look so dorky, which would have made me look even more dorky, so I left it on. Now I'm glad I did. There, look it, a girl screamed. A little squirt of spray sprouted near our boat. The back of a grayish thing spread the surface of the water and dove back down. Oh, come back, yelled another girl. It's a dolphin, too small for a whale, Billy, the expert, explained. The girls cheered when it rose again, another mini geyser. Watch, Billy yelled and pitched his beer bottle hard. The Corona hit the blowhole. Bullseye! The gray back jerked and vanished underwater. Don't do that, Billy, you're littering, the best-looking girl said. A huge spray blew skyscrapers high, showering us all, and ooh, and ah, And everyone had their cell phones trying to get selfies with the monstrous monster. Being at the tip, I got the best shot and started making a video, only I didn't get a chance to say ahoy matey or Thar She Blows before the boat was rammed. The girls screamed and another slam, and my video took shots of the sky and spray and my arm, and I was going over the side, over the skimpy railing, ready to belly flop, be a laughing stock. In free fall, I took a breath and wham! I landed somewhere, not exactly water, looked at the sky above, and black closed over everything. I remember thinking, shit, I'm in the whale. I rushed with the torrent of underwater blackness, bouncing off soft walls in a tunnel, black, warm, undulating, faster, sliding backwards, hit squishy walls, sharp turn, drop to a stop. I need to breathe. Don't do it, lardass. Unable to see, I felt thick muck, bits of bone, flesh, goop all over me and around. In the darkness, sounds of fish flopping. A powerful force pressed the slimy walls, crushing in from everywhere, rhythmically, again and again, massive muscles pulverizing me. This was the ultimate tenderizer, and I was the meat. My ankle bent sideways. I couldn't scream or I'd fill with sludge. I thought, I'm not dead yet, but I will be in a second. Pull your fat ass out of here. I pushed off with my good ankle and wriggled up, clawing at anything battered by thick, slick walls. Still holding that same breath, arms shaking with effort, I climbed the throbbing walls, digging my fingers into unseen flesh, wrenched out of that torture chamber and back into the tube. Another rush of water and fishy things surged past. I heaved against the tide, feet on either side, pressing for leverage, clawing up, hit by hundreds of thrashing things, fighting to hold the breath. A small blue light swirled closer fast, a glowing, wriggling creature headed for my face, and whoa, whirled past. I let me out of here. A jog in the tunnel, sharp turn. This had to be it. There should be some flap, a trap door, a secret passageway. I pressed and pulled and felt the edge of something, a rim, a ridge, got fingers under, got them in. I need air, forced the flap open, squiggling, wriggling my way in and dropped inside. Whoosh! I gasped and sucked in air. Hot air engulfed me. I'd made it to the lungs. And here I am, alive, for now. Yeah, but not for long. I survived getting swallowed by a whale. Only a doofus gets swallowed by a whale. Billy didn't, the girls didn't, not even stoned out of his mind toke. I guess I shouldn't have been alone at the end of the boat. If you weren't such a loser, you wouldn't have been alone at the end of the boat. You brought this on yourself, as usual. It's all your fault, lard ass.
Okay. And did that put me on immediately? I think it did.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. They've changed the rules of how this software works since last night, believe it or not. Okay. But that's good that it brought me back. That's wonderful stuff. It really is.
Thank you.
It's a fast read. It really is. It's. I started the book later than I should have, which was like last Sunday, and finished yesterday. My partner Barbara got a hold of it yesterday and is nearly done.
Mm.
You know, it just it just goes very quickly. And okay, there's a little heart from your brother, and who and another more, a few more people have little comments to make, and I won't. I'm not sure of which person that is. For some reason, we only get
Oh, yeah,
we
the
get the
names.
we get the names from YouTube, but Facebook user is just Facebook user. So I actually have to go to Facebook to find out who it is, but that's all right. We have a nice audience out there. Not huge, it's like 20 people, but of course, this is live in the middle of a working weekday, and and this will stay up. So lots of people will see this over time. Uh, how, if somebody had to describe this book to someone else, I suppose it would be fair to say that it is genre, but it is not science fiction or fantasy or even necessarily speculative fiction.
I know it's very difficult because very often I have to list it as something, and I keep going, well, it's kind of this. It's not. It's almost like it's reality, except it can't happen. So,
Right.
what genre is that?
Yeah, exactly. It needs a name. Please, nobody. It's not magical realism. That's a whole, that's Borges. That's a whole other thing. I don't have a name for it. It's a novel,
Right?
is what it is. It's a novel that could not take place, uh, and uh, nonetheless, it is some kind of a genre.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily know what. So yeah, it's genre literature, but then again, so is noir.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
uh
So if anybody comes up with the perfect name, please let me know.
yeah, yeah, we'll figure out some kind of a prize
Right.
for the person who comes up with the name of the genre that's Susan Emshwiller has created. I think that's true for a good portion of your family.
Yes.
Now, Eve doesn't write fiction, right?
No. Yeah,
No.
she's the scientist of the family.
Yeah. Uh, uh, a I don't want to say plant biologist. I'm sorry.
Ethnobotanist and teacher. Yes.
Yeah, she teaches botany. One person, and Anthony asks, so curious, how did you, and this is a question I was going to ask, I really was, how much research did you do for this book? Because the details make me really buy into the whole story as believable. That's one of the things. It is totally credible. And oh yes, and Anthony, the same person, has come up with a good name for the genre, Emshwillerian.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not bad. Carol Emshwiller's fiction could also be non-definable,
Right. Right.
delightfully so. And and somebody else says fantasy verite.
Oh, that's good too.
I
Yes.
like that. Yeah, that and for a person who's written so much for Robert Altman,
Yeah.
it sort of works its way into his oeuvre
Right. Right.
as well. But yeah, I'm sorry. I think I interrupted you in the middle of the question of the kind of research that you had to do to make this book happen. How much whale biology did you have to be aware of?
Yeah. I did a lot of research online, and basically it always came up when I came up to a situation where I thought, well, that's not possible. So I need to do more research about the physicalness of the whales and their the fact that they are mammals, the fact that they came from the land and moved to the sea, that
Mhm.
their blowhole is basically nostrils that have moved, and that over time their esophageal flap, the epiglottis flap, disappeared.
Right.
But just like people can have anomalies, I had it that this whale had an anomaly.
Yeah. Now, having said all that,
Yes.
we have described the circumstances of the book. But there's another question, a much better question, which may be better left unanswered. I leave that up to you. What's the book about?
Ah.
And I'll tell everybody watching, listening, it's not what you think.
It's about relationships, I think.
Yeah.
And then also it's very interesting for me because I don't plan what I'm gonna write as I'm writing it. And so I try and let whatever subconscious drives are driving me take the steering wheel. And so everything that becomes a theme, if there are themes, usually is coming from my subconscious, and I try not to think about it until after I finish the first draft because I don't want to, impose something. But I found it very interesting that I started writing this book after I left LA. And I'd lived in LA for 34 years. And so I was like, I'm losing my home. I'm totally homeless right now.
Mm.
And and then I wrote this thing about, and it made me feel like discovering home as being part of yourself and who you love is what it was teaching me while writing this book. Does that make sense?
It makes all the sense, especially if one has read the book, because home has a very specific meaning.
Yes.
Within the book, more than one, because we're spending a lot of time with his mother.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 45% of the book is with her,
mm-hmm.
and 45 with him, and then 10% ancillary other characters and things that happen. Did you perceive it as a comedy? Or is humorous?
I tend to write things that affect me painfully or whatever, and then they always end up being funny. So I already know that from my plays that every single thing I end up writing is funny in one of those ways that you might go, oh my God, yeah, I get it. Yes.
Yeah,
it's recognizable or something as
yeah,
human.
that painful comedy where,
Right.
this I could imagine this happening to me, and if so, ouch. But then
Yes.
later on, you can laugh.
Right. Exactly.
Or smirk.
Right.
One of those. I found his voice very interesting. Instead of dealing with the girls as people, they have numbers. He's rating them, and it's like, oh yeah, that one's definitely a 9.
Yeah.
And so forth, which is not, I would guess, the way that you think.
No, it's not.
Or
No.
anybody in your family.
But I felt like, he really needed he had a big arc to go on, and a character arc,
Yeah.
not a ship. There are enough ships in this.
Right.
So I felt like he's just like one of those stupid teenage jerks,
Which is pretty well established even before we meet him.
Right. Right.
Because we know how his mother has reacted to the way that he's been guiding his life.
Yes.
Would you like him?
Would I like him as a son?
As a person?
As time goes on, yes, totally.
Yeah.
But not in the beginning.
Yeah. And you have to get to know him.
Yes.
And there are other characters even to be met within the Whale, within home, within
totally
all that. And I have to point out, by the way, my mother's name is Liesel.
Really?
Yes,
wow.
Liesl. That was her name.
Wow.
From Germany.
Interesting, because I was just, I just go through the names, pick the country that I want to go and go through the names and go, which one do I feel something from?
Yeah, and a few people say, oh, like the sound. Yeah, there's a Liesl in The Sound of Music. That's not
Oh,
that uncommon a name.
yeah.
But my mother was Liesel, spelled exact Liesl, same way as in the book. I've seen variants on that, probably anglicizations, SEL on the end or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
And her brother, who I always thought of as Uncle George, I was probably 14 or 15 when I found out his name was actually Wolfgang.
Oh, wow. That's a great name.
Yeah, so Liesel and Wolfgang, both Holocaust
I'm gonna have to
survivors.
start writing my next book here, Liesel and Wolfgang.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd love for that to happen. Barbara has put both of them, Barbara Krasnoff, my partner, um, who I have to tell people has a story in the current magazine of fantasy and science fiction. So,
Congratulations.
yeah, um, she has put them both into her. Um, I'm blanking on the word for it. It's a novel where all the chapters and characters weave in and out
Mm.
of the various stories. Somebody who might be in story number 3 could be a minor character in story number 8,
Oh, yes.
and something that happens early in the book may have to do with something that takes place a couple of hundred years in the future.
Oh, wow. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, Cage Baker, Richard Bowes are two people who write like that. Thank you, Facebook user. It's a mosaic novel. That's what they're called. And I don't, of all the conversations that I had with one of the great teachers, Carol Emshwiller,
Mm.
I don't think we ever got around to discussing the structure, the feel of a mosaic novel,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
is interesting because I spoke to her so often about this stuff, usually on the radio. I think she must have been on Hour of the Wolf 8 or 9 times, and one of my favorite guests. Uh, uh, so, yeah, it's one of the few forms we did not discuss, and I assume one that she did not teach.
Yeah. I don't know exactly.
Yeah. Well, I know a couple of her students I can ask.
Mm.
What now you've written in so many forms, uh, uh, not just plays and movies for minor people like Mamet and Altman, two of my favorites right there. Uh,
Well, that was set decorating.
oh, that was set decorating,
Yes.
but you got to work with them
Yes.
nonetheless. Uh, when writing, however, so that makes that intro worthless. But when writing, you've written different forms, including plays and short fiction
And screenplays. Yes.
and screenplays and novels. Uh, do any of these have any specific preferences for you? Do you enjoy, oh, I'm going to embark on this kind of a book now or something?
Right. Well, I didn't write prose for many, many years. When we grew up as kids, we could play with making films, we could play with painting, we could play with on mom's old typewriter and writing stories. And so we got to just play art a lot of times. But then once I left, I didn't write anything until I graduated from Cal Arts and I started writing screenplays. And then my dad died, and wrote my first play based on his death, which is the Defrosting Popsicles uh,
Hmm.
book, play. And then I was just focused on writing plays and screenplays for the longest time. And only 2013 did I start writing short story. So it's been fairly recent. And what happened was I was like, holy mackerel, this is so fun. Because when you're writing screenplays, you're not supposed to get in anybody's head. You're not supposed to say what somebody's thinking. You just say the action and the dialogue, what you see on the screen. And then plays, you don't say what people are thinking. You can only write the dialogue and how they move on stage. So for me, getting into somebody's head was so fun. And having unreliable narrators, having people saying exactly not what they're going through. Uh, and so I tend to write, not always, but I tend to write first person because it's just been like the most fun way of expressing a character, having their thoughts. And but as you saw in Thar She Blows, it does switch. The two main characters are first person, and then the rest is third person.
Yeah. And
Even though I go into their heads a little bit.
yeah. And it's a lot of fun. And it did strike me cinematically insofar as we had seen and then something else. It would make also a very interesting adaptation. I'm thinking radio, of course,
Yeah,
because you could just switch voices.
yes,
Three voices would, well, there's Liesel and a couple of other
yeah,
folk, but you don't need many voices, and you can, well, design the best. I'm saying this to a set decorator. You can design the best sets in radio
right.
than in pretty much anything else.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you thought of other genre in which to work? Other media, I should say.
Media. Um, n- Not so much. I mean, I like making assemblage. I do art, and so it's everything comes out in a different way. We got very lucky with our parents being able to do many things, and I always feel like my dad changing careers, basically going from an artist to a filmmaker to a video artist to a computer graphics guy. Every 10 years, he kind of switched. That to me is a great lesson that you don't have to stick with anything, and you can just kind of evolve and go wherever your psyche tells you to go, or your interest, basically.
Hmm.
So that was a great lesson. I just feel like I'm I like doing things different than I've done before, so I don't stick with things uh, in the same way
Yeah.
somebody might.
I'm just flashing across the screen for those who are watching that if you have questions for Susan Emshwiller, type them into the comments or chat area. Either this should work on either Facebook or YouTube, assuming that you gotten to them. It does. So I can see this is transmitting on both, although they're about a minute apart. But
Oh,
yeah, this is so weird doing internet stuff. Even if you do it from one room to another, there can be a 20-second lag.
wow.
It's really strange. And right now, WBAI, we're no longer broadcasting directly to through phone lines to the Empire State Building because they became horribly, horribly expensive, like $65,000 a month rent. Yeah, it is laughable.
Wow.
We're now in a different building, and we're sending our signal instead of through stereo phone lines for stereo broadcasting, we're using IP,
Mm,
uh, uh, which sometimes knocks us out, as the internet is wont to do. But it's also very strange that I can go to two radios or two different sources and listen to the station and hear the lag
yeah.
between it all. So now, why did I bring that up? I have no idea. That's so typical of me. Uh, uh, Somebody out there would say. But going back to what you were saying about your father switching media more or less every 10 years. I followed all that because I began as a kid with the magazine of fantasy and science fiction when Ed Furman
Mm,
was still the editor, and and enjoying the covers and looking at your mother who modeled
yes,
for a lot of the covers.
yes.
Uh, uh, it's quite a family. It really is. I didn't want to get into this. I didn't want, I wanted to talk about you and your work.
There's there's one of the covers.
Yeah.
This is, Little Susan
Oh
mo
my. So you've actually appeared naked on a magazine cover.
Yes.
There you go. There you go. And yes, and a person on Facebook is saying, "My mom is requesting that you yourself record the audio version of the book."
Well, it's fun to do. It's fun to read. I When my mom was alive, a previous novel that is not published yet, it's kind of a YA. That was my first novel that I wrote, and I read it and recorded the entire thing so that she could hear it because she had macular degeneration and she couldn't see anymore.
Yeah.
So, it was really fun to do that for her, and, I think it might be something for me to try and do.
Yeah, I think it would be great. I tried to talk her into listening to audiobooks. I already was working for what is now Adamant Publications at John Joseph Adams. That's Lightspeed Magazine, which I also host, and Nightmare and Fantasy Magazine. So we're putting out 6 podcasts of short stories a month, and it's tremendous fun. It really is, and we have some great narrators.
That's
I
great.
like the idea of writers narrating
Yeah.
to the point where for your mother's birthday, I'm trying to remember now, was that her 90th?
Yeah, her 90th birthday, we
Yes.
went to, some place in Brooklyn. I took her there. I can't remember where it was, though.
No, we were still at the Soho Gallery for Digital Arts,
Oh,
just downtown. You may have come, we then moved to Atlantic Avenue, to Boerum Hill, coincidentally to the same building in which WBAI is now located. And it's a
oh,
charming place.
yeah.
Um, Although during the pandemic, that cafe, which could seat 200 people, closed.
Mm,
So I do that series now like we're doing Hour of the Wolf. We do it online,
right, right.
and somebody on Facebook is talking about Stefan and Gab are fantastic. Those are uh, our 2 chief narrators, Stefan Rudnicki and Gabrielle de Cure, both award-winning. Oh my God, these are like, I thought I had an okay voice, and I used to read a lot on the air, and then I hear these people, and it's like, oh my God. But
Fantastic.
but you have your characters perfect.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun to do the different characters.
Yeah. And somebody says recorded with background music from the Hey Hey Club. I, for one, do not know what the Hey Hey Club is, but I
That was a club in, the movie Kansas City, where
oh,
folks, played.
it's been so many years since I've seen that. I have to rewatch almost all of Altman's films, with the exception of The Long Goodbye, because I watch that almost monthly.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Uh, um, And for those people who don't know, that's one of the best Philip Marlowe movies, and it has the peculiar distinction of being written by Lee Brackett. That's Leigh, one of the great fantasy writers herself of
Mm,
all time, who also collaborated on the screenplay of The Big Sleep.
Oh, wow.
So she went from Howard Hawks to Robert Altman.
Wow.
If you want to see the same characters written by the same woman on what I think are the two best Philip Marlowe movies,
Yeah, that's so cool.
it really is.
I'm gonna have to see them both now again.
Yeah, yeah, and they're both so worthwhile. And it's also very interesting to see the classic early 40s take on Philip Marlowe with the two burning cigarettes in the ashtray, and that's like the shall we say the smoldering love
Right.
between them, to the outright to from Humphrey Bogart to Elliot Gould, and they
Yeah,
both work.
yeah, yeah. Amazing.
It really is. It really is. There's a new Philip Marlowe coming out soon,
Hmm.
and only a trailer so far. I'm skeptical
I
every
would.
time. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Uh, any movies, plays? What are you working on now?
I'm working on just kind of reading, revising a third novel. It's called "All My Ancestors Had Sex," and it's true. All of them did.
You can't dispute that. Yeah,
You can't dispute that. Yeah,
a great title.
and I
It'll
have to.
get banned in Florida, but outside of that,
Right, exactly. So far, only Florida, but we'll see. Uh,
let's hope
um, and
it's
it's maybe it is another Emshwiller-esque, or was fantasy verite.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we came up with our viewers came up with a few
yes,
good descriptions.
yeah.
Um,
So it
and
is that that un genre defining book again.
yeah, but I like that. I like that in fiction. I like that you can pull that off and do that. The things that are good in science fiction and fantastic fiction, uh, and just surrealist fiction, uh, are what draw me
Mm,
to writing for the most part, and are my favorite. And I just had a blast with Thar She Blows.
thank you.
And when it was all said and done, yeah, I would say, yeah, this is about relationships by all means.
Right, all kinds of relationships.
Yeah. Well, is that when you set out to write this book, did you start out with that idea that that's where it was going to go?
No,
I know you
no.
didn't have a plot.
Yeah, I didn't have any idea. I just was like, okay, I wrote the second chapter that I read about Brian falling into the whale. That was like a short story that I wrote, and then I said, "Oh, I think I could expand this. I wonder what Mom is doing."
Hmm.
And so then I wrote Mom, and then it started being back and forth, and then, as you know, other characters kind of come in,
Right.
and but I thought, well, if even if you're an agoraphobic mom, you're gonna have to try and find your son if you think he's alive. So how do you do that? And then, it just started from there.
Yeah.
How do you find your son in a whale? I don't know.
Yeah. Um, I have a one word question, which you are free to say, I'd rather not talk about that because the answer is to be found within the covers of the book. The question is beige,
Uh,
Beige. This is a word that if you put into a word processor and ran it through your book would come up a whole lot of times.
yes, yes. I just thought it for some reason when I lived in California, there were so many beige houses that were so square and boring, and some of them really had this really safe feel to them, and like your life is definitely going to go nowhere if you're saddled in a beige place.
Mm,
And so it became like this idea of not taking risks and not having anything fun happen in your life. And I wanted her to go from beige to something else.
right. And we'll leave it at that. But I did want to ask because by the time you're up, and these are very short chapters, but by the time you're up to, say, chapter 6, you're aware of the fact that that's an important word.
Right, right.
And maybe we'll leave it there for people. Although I appreciate that push on the swing that you gave as to just why that would be that way. Only place I've ever lived is Queens and Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, not much beige.
Not much beige, not
Right.
much green either.
Yeah.
But
Well, the cover of the book has the the uh, the the quintessence of California stucco building, and they're always beige.
yeah, and I remember very well because we're talking so much about Altman in The Long Goodbye. He has these Malibu colonies
Yes.
throughout, and yeah, they're all like that. They're
Yeah.
all beige and glass.
Yeah.
And boring.
Yes. And you don't want to spend your life there.
No, you really don't. Which is, uh, well, people should just see that movie. It's a wonderful film. Uh, how would you describe? Is there a major difference in your themes and your writing between your plays, your screenplays, and your fiction, your prose fiction?
I think the themes come out of what's going on in my life or what did go on in my life. And so, like, as I said, this one came out of moving out of LA and I didn't have what I felt was home anymore. So, what is home? And then the first novel I wrote called Exclamation Point is about a young girl who doesn't talk. And I didn't talk when I was a kid. I didn't talk like through kindergarten, high school, graduate school. I didn't speak. I could speak, but I really was impossibly shy. And and so I healed myself greatly through therapy and stuff, but also from writing this book. And then the all my ancestors had sex is directly involved with having no more parents and having the past be so much in me. And can you get rid of the past?
Hmm. Right. Right. I
So
haven't read that. I have to.
yeah, it's not out yet, but it will be. Um,
When's it coming out?
Hopefully in November.
Ooh. So maybe we can do another one of these
Yes,
or
I'd
a
love
native
to.
review of science fiction event, uh,
Yeah, I'd love to.
which is virtually the same thing as this in
Right.
uh, nowadays in a different slot. Although then I've got a whole team of people supporting me instead of trying to engineer it myself. So and sometimes I have different hosts,
Yes.
so we can play around with that. But right now, we've been recording for an hour, 8 minutes, for 68 minutes, for a 1 hour show that only has about 45 spare minutes for this. But, as I say, the great thing is no matter how long the radio show, this video will stay online
Right. Right.
and people will get to see this whole thing. But um, I'm steering us around to, I guess, closing remarks. But unless you have topics you'd like to bring up,
No, I really appreciate all you brought up and the folks putting in chat. questions.
Yes, thank you all. And I have to make an extremely public apology to Susan, who first contacted me about this book like 3 months ago, which is nothing compared to the tardiness that I had on your mother's, I think, 90th birthday. Um, Louis Ortiz had a painting that your father did of your mother that is just one of the most spectacular paintings. If you didn't know the subject, it is still a spectacular painting. And if you did, so much the better. And I wanted to get a copy of that for online. And Carol, your mother, said, "Oh, here, take it home and then you can do it properly." Because I didn't know how to do scanning. I had it for about 6 months, something like that. I mean, and this is on so many levels. Number one, there's this wonderful picture of Carol Emshwiller. Number two, it's an original Emshwiller. Being a big fan of his art, his Sirius, and his Christmas robots.
Right.
And yes, and here my partner, who is watching, says it was a lovely painting. It is a lovely painting. And finally, you were racing through from the airport to Manhattan, and
Right.
I got it to you. And I felt so just miserable about that. I was, in fact, at a Science Fiction Writers of America event, and your mother was sitting at a table with a lot of great people, and at one point, Michael Swanwick came out to the other room where I happened to be and said, "Carol would like to say hello." And I shriveled. I just felt so guilty. And then the times when I was ready to take it over, sometimes it was pouring and
Yes.
going from the tip of Brooklyn to Midtown Manhattan and all that. And I just procrastinated forever. And you deserve a heartfelt, deep public apology there, other than I suppose it's like one of those people that well, at least I wasn't stealing anything, but there are people who do just so they can look and say, "Hey, look, there's a Da Vinci," or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see, one more comment. Bravo, Susan. Bravo, Jim. Interesting program. Wonderful reading by Susan. May I echo that? I especially enjoyed your facial expressions while you read. And may I say, well, radio audience, you will have to go to my YouTube page in order to see that part of it. And it is well worth it.
Thank you.
So, don't hang up because we'll talk as we get off. But thank you so much for doing this. And thank you for thinking of me to help promote this wonderful book.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Okay, good. And what's the title again of the next book?
All My Ancestors Had Sex.
Right. Okay, yeah. An unforgettable title. Let me just mention a couple of things. These are not free for me to do. They cost a very low, about $40 a month for the software that we use to present this. And so if you care to give us a tip, you can do that at paypal.com/paypalme/ourwolf, HOURWOLF. And oh, yes, and here is a link to buy anything that that South American River has for sale of Susan Emshwiller's, and we get a small kickback. And that is AMZN, sort of like Amazon, but shorter, .to/44MY20T. Or just if you use that, I get like a 4 or 5% kickback on those. So it helps. And finally, yes, our next New York Review of Science Fiction reading will be on June 6th at 7 p.m. and will feature the wonderful Sarah Pinsker, who has been very prolific of late and winning awards for it, deservedly so. And we hope to see you back soon, Susan. And anybody you care to throw at me.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So have a great afternoon, and don't hang up because you and I will chat while I throw everybody else off.
Bye.
Bye-bye.